sole owner of Monday Night Raw.
So I had to go back and rewatch the history of Donald Trump in WWE. Yes, I did. Because for research purposes, I had to figure out why this happened and what was going on in 2007 and 2009 WWE. And why, oh why, I hated this so much. Now, Donald Trump and Vince McMahon have a long-term historical relationship dating back to the early days of WrestleMania together. But I want to take a minute and look at where things started in the more modern era and what led to the guest host era that so many of us look back so very fondly at. In 2007, Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell were in a real life dispute. Public thing going back and forth, taking shots at each other. It's like pre-Twitter. Like these were the beefs we saw, which was on television. And these two schmucks going at it back and forth. It's wild to us. So this resulted in Vince McMahon doing a segment on Monday Night Raw on January 8th, 2007, where they had a fake Rosie O'Donnell and a fake Donald Trump have a match together. We had Vince McMahon standing in the ring introducing Donald Trump, fake Donald Trump, and fake Rosie O'Donnell with the incredible dialogue and introductions like this.
Hear it all, her lesbianic fury!
Yeah, that's what we got back then. It's not even Attitude Era. It's just bad. So I rewatched this. It is 10 minutes long, the whole segment. The introductions of them coming to the ring, the quote match that they had together. The whole thing was 10 minutes. And I remember why I hated this so very much. Because watching this back then, 2007, watching it live on Monday Night Raw, I can remember this. And I remember hating it like the fans in the audience hated it too, like other people did at home and online. This was bad. This was bad just for bad. You gotta remember context too of the timing of all of this. Donald Trump was still the Apprentice guy, most famously known as the guy, the host of The Apprentice, the TV show. That's how most people generally knew Donald Trump in the public sphere. Look at me doing my hands thing like that dummy. So Vince clearly was looking to capitalize on that and had this so-called match. Fun fact about this match. Ace Steel played Donald Trump. I had no idea. I was doing research for this and I found that out. He's CM Punk's guy. I was like, that's fun. But this thing was terrible. This was so hard to watch. It was borderline unwatchable. It made you feel so bad to be a wrestling fan. Like this was the type of stuff that you didn't want people to see you watching, that you question all of it together. This is one of those moments, ladies and gentlemen, where you really were like, I hope nobody walks in right now and catches me, because I can't explain how bad this is to them. We did get fake Donald Trump smashing a cake into the face of fake Rosie O'Donnell. Funny thing though about that, there's an interview I found of Ace Steel talking about this, how he was brought into WWE at the time for all of this. And he did say that if you watch it back, you can hear how hard and loud he smacked that cake into that person's face.
It was a smack. I was like, I'm making something out of this. Bam!
Rewatched it? Yeah, Ace Steel smashes them in the face with it. And yes, this was so bad that I could have just changed the channel. I know I could have, but there's nothing else on at the time. It's 2007. And also, just, you want to see it end. You don't know when it's going to end. So, fake Donald Trump wins this thing and does a flying headbutt, 1, 2, 3, and it's over. You can hear the live crowd audibly during this, just how indifferent and sick of it and wanting it to end. I think they were chanting, please end this match. This was not going over well. And this is pre-special host, special guest hosts of Monday Night Raw era. We're almost there. But this wasn't the end of Donald Trump and his presence in WWE. We go to the end of January 2007, WWE Raw Fan Appreciation Night, where Vince McMahon was turning it into a Vince Appreciation Night. With McMahon in the ring and showing off his muscle and fitness cover, we got a surprise of Donald Trump showing up on the Titantron, awkwardly talking and speaking and saying how he's going to be giving fans what they really want, and just dropped money from the rafters, and it was real money that they dropped for that night of Raw. This also wasn't random, because this was going to be one of the first steps towards setting up their match, the event of WrestleMania 23. Trump and Vince are in the ring on Raw, and Vince wants to know why Trump is there, and Trump is saying how he wants to have a match one-on-one with Vince at WrestleMania. The segment was pretty long, and it was to set up the official rules for the match. So they decided having their own representatives for each match. They didn't say who it was going to be at this time, but they would each have a representative. At first, Trump wanted to have a one-on-one match with Vince. Vince denies this because he's not in the right shape, health, whatever, in order to have a match. So he said, let's have a representative. And then there was an awkward back and forth long exchange of how you will have a representative and I will have a representative and everyone gets a representative in this match at WrestleMania.
You pick a representative, I'll pick a representative.
And they followed it up with Trump adding to the stipulations, raising the stakes by saying that it will be essentially a hair versus hair match where the winner will be able to shave the other person's hair. I will say this, watching this stuff back, the crowd in this segment for the setup, they were surprisingly popping for Trump and for Vince and this whole thing. They seemed a little bit into it. Not the Rosie O'Donnell Trump segment they did before. This, they seem to be okay with. We fast forward to another episode of Raw, where we had the official contract signing reveal of who was going to be representing Trump and Vince in the respective match. So for Vince on his side, we got the late great Umaga representing Vince McMahon in the match. And for Donald Trump, he announces that it was going to be ECW champion Bobby Lashley going in there. Bobby is huge then, Bobby is huge now. Like, good on Bobby Lashley, never missed a step. Stone Cold Steve Austin then also makes an appearance at the end of this segment and says he's gonna be the special guest referee in this whole thing. The segment was around 20 to 23 minutes, and it was so long. Like, it could have been done in record fashion, like 5, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. It could have been done. This was 20 to 23 minutes in that time range. It was a long thing. So it's WrestleMania 23. The match was on, and we had the really ridiculous moment of Donald Trump hitting the epic clothesline on Vince McMahon with some just absolutely furious baby punches to tapping the head of Vince McMahon. The crowd went wild. The match concludes with Umaga missing a spike to Stone Cold and Austin ducking, hitting the stunner, Bobby Lashley hitting a spear, and Austin counts to 3, which when you look at the landscape of that, what an odd thing in a match. Stone Cold Steve Austin, special ref for Umaga versus Bobby Lashley with Donald Trump and Vince McMahon in the corners. What a combination. Also, Shane was in there as a special ref, jumping in too. Like, what? What? Then obviously we got the big classic moment, Vince McMahon getting his head shaved, and they had the shaving cream, and then holding him down, getting his hair buzzed. And this at the time was WrestleMania's biggest box office they ever did. So they actually did around 1.2 million pay-per-view buys for this WrestleMania. Now shout out to other matches we did have at this WrestleMania, Batista and Undertaker. We also had John Cena versus Shawn Michaels. So we all thought that this was the end of all of this nonsense. Nada. We move forward to June 2009. Vince McMahon is coming to the ring, and we find out that Donald Trump has purchased Monday Night Raw from Vince McMahon. Now, what I didn't know until looking back on all this stuff was that WWE and Vince, during this whole segment or prior to set it up, they actually put together a mock press release saying that Vince was selling Monday Night Raw to Donald Trump. And what this did was the stock for WWE actually dropped 7% because of this angle that they were doing. So what this was doing was it was putting Trump in charge and trying to do good things for Raw and stuff that they had never seen before on Monday Night Raw. And they were going to get Monday Night Raw commercial free, which actually wasn't the case at all if you rewatch the episode, because you get Kentucky Fried Chicken, you get a bunch of different stuff happening. It wasn't that. And I remember, as I watched this thing back again, I remember this Raw, and yeah, it was just loaded with advertising throughout the entire thing. So no, it wasn't ad-free. Now, in classic Vince McMahon fashion, this did not last very long. They pivoted very quickly, almost record time, you would say, because this angle lasted 1 week. The next week on Raw, Vince came out to the ring with Donald Trump, and Vince asked to buy back Monday Night Raw from Donald Trump. And he apparently in storyline paid double to get Raw back. And that was the end of it. And Vince says to Trump that he's fired. That's what they did. This was the last thing we saw of Donald Trump before he was going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this was because, well, it reminded me of how bad this time period was of WWE, how bad some of the segments were to watch, and it would usher in the entire guest host era of WWE that we suffered through for about 5 years. It was bad, and I didn't realize that with the timeline of it all, that Trump was before this. Like, I had to go back and look at the timeline, but Trump was the first bit we saw. We've had guest people coming in to Raw over the years. That's not new, but this was the beginning of the guest host era. This is where it started, and we started with Donald Trump, and we got so much more beyond that every single week on Raw. It became so unbearable to watch at times. You didn't want it. Bob Barker was a fantastic highlight, I will say. So what did you think of the Trump saga in WWE? But I also have another, probably even more important question for all of you. Who had taken the worst stunner? Vince McMahon or Donald Trump? Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And if you enjoy videos like this, hit subscribe, hit the like button. It helps the channel so very much. And if you want more content on WWE, click this video right here. Have a great day. See ya.